Welcome to the Cocoa Recovery Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to our 10th episode. The Cocoa Recovery Podcast presents the conversations of an informal group of friends gathered over coffee to discuss their current experience in recovery. The simple purpose of this podcast is to be helpful by sharing the realities of people living in recovery. The hosts and guests may or may not be practicing members of 12-step programs. The Cocoa Recovery Podcast is not affiliated with any organization, institution, or facility. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes or approaches to recovery and rehabilitation. Whatever is expressed in the podcast represents our individual experiences and opinions as of today. Woohoo! Welcome to our 10th episode. I'm your co-host, Barbie.
And I'm Pirate Mike.
And Carbs is not here.
No, she's taking a break.
Yeah, we seem to be taking turns. She's in El Nido right now.
Right. I don't know. I'm very happy to be here with you tonight, but then El Nido is not a bad place to be if you have to be somewhere else.
That is very true. And her kids just arrived, so from the States. So she's very, very excited to spend some time with them.
That's what it's about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So our topic for today is relapse. I hate that word, by the way.
Yeah, it carries a lot of weight with it, no?
Yeah.
It's a big topic. I was thinking about it before the podcast. I know we've talked about it in some other episodes, but I think that what prompted it is a reading that we had about the sixth step, no, and about being ready to or being willing to change as opposed to like holding on to things.
Yes, holding on to old beliefs and patterns that block us, right? So yeah, relapse could be seen as a very negative thing, but it could also be positive as well. It could be a learning experience. Like, I guess in my experience,
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this in the previous episodes that I was 7 years sober at one point in my life, but I was white knuckling it. I was doing it. I was staying clean and sober as a codependent to my ex-husband who was doing drugs. My counselor said if I wanted to help my ex-husband get clean, I had to stop drinking and basically be a good example. So yeah, I stayed dry. Basically, that's what it is. I was dry for 7 years, but I was still, very angry. I was, I was like a martyr, basically. I just felt like a caregiver, a caretaker. I resented my ex-husband for continuing to do drugs for the 9 years of our marriage. So I became a very angry person, and I didn't have the program at all. I didn't have a higher power. So, and the fact that I was sober for 7 years did not help me at all because it made me question, am I really an alcoholic? Right? So I guess I didn't really accept that my life was completely unmanageable without alcohol. After a while, I started to question it. Like maybe since 7 years has passed, maybe if I drink again, I'll be better. I'll be better at drinking. Like I won't go crazy. Maybe I could stop. Maybe I could stop at like 2 drinks.
Yeah.
That was the hope. But yeah, when the pandemic, came and, I was like so freaked out. I really thought that I was, that anybody could die, like in my family, including myself. I was so afraid for my daughter. We were trapped in the house. I didn't have the tools. I didn't have a relationship with God. So, and I was going through a divorce. So I had the worst relapse. Like I just, and it was planned too. That was the
Oh
weird
yeah.
part. Yeah.
Huh.
It was planned. I said, because my friends, they're not in recovery. So
Yeah.
one of my best friends said, "Hey, why don't you just have a drink? You're a better person now. Maybe this time it will be different." So, she kind of encouraged it as well. That's something that I was already questioning. So all of a sudden I had these group of friends that said, "Yeah, go ahead. Why not? You
Why
could always
not?
just stop. Like if
Huh.
you realize that you can't control yourself, just stop." So I said, "You're right. I'll just stop." Yeah, that never happened. So it was like a 3 year, my God,
Mm.
nightmare of active addiction. It wasn't even relapsing anymore because it was like continuous already. I would stop for 2 weeks, 60 days, that was,
Yeah.
I think 60 was my longest until I went into rehab. And then I was sober for 100 days and then I relapsed again. So
Oh, after
yeah,
the 100 days. Okay.
after the 100 days. But that's because I I was just holding I there was still something I didn't want to give up.
You can see that.
Yeah, now I can see it now, what they were. After doing the steps with my
Mm.
sponsor, that was the only time I realized, oh shit, there were a bunch of things I didn't want to give up. Resentment is one
Yeah.
of them. My character defects, I didn't want to work on them. I didn't want to work on my anger issues. I didn't want to apologize to people that I hurt.
Yeah.
I thought I was the victim, the whole entire time. So yeah, that's what happened to me. So what about you? What is your experience? Did you ever relapse while you were in recovery or before you entered the rooms?
I mean, the first 4 months of, and not even sobriety. So the first 4 months when I was attending meetings, I was in and out because I was court ordered to attend meetings, and I was doing it out of obligation. I wasn't trying to get to know anybody or really learn anything about the steps. Um, because I was afraid to. I didn't want to look stupid. I didn't want to, like, just all these things were holding me back. And I didn't really want to stop drinking. So I just kept on attending meetings and going out to drink and then attending a meeting at a different place, being a ghost. Um,
Have you
uh,
been to one drunk?
I'm trying to think. I can't
Because yeah,
recall. You did? You did?
I did, but it was a Zoom meeting. Thank God.
Ah,
Yeah, so it
it was
was
a Zoom meeting.
easier. But I got caught.
Maybe not like belligerent drunk, but I'm sure that I've been to at least one meeting where I already had a few, you know?
Mm,
Um,
mm,
it was in person in those days, right? So I think that I was probably too afraid to show up drunk, had this idea that like, well, you just don't show up drunk, you're not supposed to be.
yeah.
So if I had a beer or two, I probably just tried to like maintain. But after I asked somebody to, I had a point where it felt like an emotional bottom. And then I asked somebody to guide me through the steps to sponsor me. And after that, I didn't relapse anymore physically, but especially when I hear you talk about it, um, I was probably a dry drunk. I was probably a dry drunk in recovery for a long time, like a number of years, and I didn't know it,
Yeah.
because I was trying to, even the steps. We were in a meeting yesterday, and somebody was talking about their experience with the steps, and I got to thinking that um, I thought that if I completed the 12 steps, then that would just mean that I was legit, like I belonged, right? And then
Yes.
they wouldn't be able to kick me out, or I'd be like, certified, something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I didn't see the
Yeah.
point. I didn't see, like when you talk about realizing things like your character defects, I didn't, none of that was really the point. I wanted a place to belong. And so it was a lot of like People tell me to go to meetings, so I went to meetings, and people told me to help out at the meetings, and so I did that. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of fear, like you do this,
Mm,
if you don't do it, then you're never going to stay sober. You're going to go out and drink again. So when you talk about your experience and you talk about the role of like a higher power and that spirituality, um, that seemed to be like beside the point, in
yeah.
the way that I understood it. It was more about the things that I do to be a part of the herd and to be part of the recovery community. And those things primarily are what's going to keep me sober. And I guess it did, but it was very uncomfortable. I was not emotionally sober, like we've talked about that. Um,
Yeah.
I was still hiding things and not being, honest. I wasn't really enjoying recovery. You know,
Yeah.
it took a long time
And
for me to get
how
there.
were your relationships with people during that time?
They were okay. I managed to get married and have a couple kids and do well with work, but I didn't feel like being I wasn't being very like completely open to people. I felt like I didn't feel very sincere,
Mm-hmm.
when I compare the way that it feels today, the way that I'm able to relate to people, it feels genuine enough to me.
Yeah.
I don't feel as if I'm faking it till I make it anymore. It really comes out of this like place of um, well, gratitude, but
Mm-hmm.
just wanting to be better. So it's very different now.
Yeah, of course, of course. I mean,
Mm,
I was the same. I mean, when I first entered the rooms, like when I attended my first face-to-face meeting, I am very lucky that I had the relapse. Like I didn't relapse again
mm,
physically. Anyway, I didn't drink. But I've had a lot of emotional relapses,
yeah.
because I didn't get it yet. It takes time. That's why they say to keep coming back because you have to keep attending the meetings to understand what it's about.
Yeah.
Like you can't ask, like, when you tell another person who's an alcoholic to like go with you to the meetings, you can't like expect that person to get it right away. They're just kind of like there and they're like, what's going on? They're just trying to feel their way, and that's why
I remember that.
we try to be so welcoming. We didn't know the rules.
Yeah.
Like, are we supposed to say addict or alcoholic or what? Like, I was just so confused, and I remember they would correct me and I would feel so embarrassed,
Oh,
like,
really?
oh, yeah, I would, because I'm like a perfectionist. I was like, I'm not doing this right.
Yeah.
But yeah, after attending, yeah, so many meetings, um, I started to understand what it was about, that it was a spiritual program.
Right. Right.
It's a spiritual program and it's not just about not drinking. That took a while to register in my mind. I thought that as long as I didn't drink, I was okay.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
Same. And I didn't
Right?
understand why. I think I gave myself a grace period without thinking about it. But, when you get to like 5+ years and then there's a part of me that still felt as if I wasn't okay. I didn't understand that. I just thought that maybe it didn't work, but I'm not going to start drinking now, which is if you think about it, that's an uncomfortable place to be in. I wasn't
Mm,
happy completely with myself and my life, and yet I was too afraid to go out there and drink again. So it's like I was trapped.
yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't see, like you said, the things that you were holding on to. I didn't see all the things that I was holding on to. I think I told this story before, but that I was in one of the meetings before, and somebody was talking about how they always wanted to consider themselves somebody who was recovering, like present tense, and the reason why. I know this is not for like the way that everybody thinks about it, but the reason why for that person is because they thought that if they started considering themselves as a recovered person, then that means that they couldn't be wild and crazy and fun anymore, you know.
Yeah.
And they wanted
Mm.
to hold on to that. And I wanted to hold on to that also. So I wasn't really willing to change um, the way that I needed to in order to get well. I still wanted
Yeah.
to hold on to like some parts of the old me.
Yeah. Like for me also, it was so crazy. Like I knew like after rehab, right? I'm not supposed to drink anymore.
Mm,
And I knew that even though like I wasn't really like close to God, but I would still like I still believed in God, you know, the God of like when I was taught to me when I was small. And I knew that what I was doing was wrong. You know, I was hurting people that I loved. I knew deep inside that I had to stop drinking. I mean,
mm,
I was lying to everyone. I didn't exactly enjoy that. Everyone thought that after rehab, I was sober already, but I was hiding it from my family. But I remember having this conversation with God. And that's when I knew that, yeah, I am not giving up my old ways. You know, I still wanted my will to be done
mm.
because of this conversation I had. And it seems so stupid, but it's what happened. And I told God and I said, I still want to date. I still want to date people. My ex-husband has a girlfriend and he's moved on and I haven't. I don't want to feel this pain anymore. This pain going through the divorce was unbearable. It was
Mm.
unbearable to me. And for me, I had the stupid idea that the only thing that could stop the pain was to drink, was
Ah,
really just to drink.
and it was like
And
fixed.
yeah, it
Ah,
was fixed. And the other solution, the other crazy, it's insanity. That's why it's insanity. So
yeah,
first, I have to drink in order not to feel the pain. The next one is I have to find somebody new
right.
to replace him. And how am I supposed to date without alcohol? I didn't know how to date without
Oh,
alcohol.
so it all went back around to,
Yeah. So I told God, I was pointing my finger
yeah.
up in the heavens and I was saying, whatever it is, I said, it's too painful. I said, this is too painful. And I don't care. I don't care if you think that I have to stop drinking. Whatever it is, I'm going to do everything in my power. I actually said, I'm going to do everything in my power to heal from this divorce. If I have to drink in order to date someone and have a boyfriend so that I don't have to feel the pain of my divorce, so be it.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was a conversation. So looking back, I'm like, holy crap. I really didn't want to let go
Yeah,
of yeah. That was what was blocking me. I didn't want to feel the pain of my divorce. That, you know, I
yeah,
was like, I'll hurt anyone, you know, I'll hurt everyone with my drinking as long as I didn't have to feel the pain of
yeah,
being alone and being replaced, you know, and finally, of course, you know, when you enter the program and actually do the steps, all of a sudden it's like, ooh, a lot of like aha moments, like,
right.
oh shit, okay, so that's what I need to do. And slowly, all of these things were being removed from me, you
Yeah,
know, like learning that it's okay to feel pain. You have to feel the pain. You know, the reason why it took me so long to get over that divorce was because I was drunk. You know, like
right.
it stunted my growth. It stunted my healing,
Yeah,
you know, and that's why I couldn't I think I could have, I don't know. I really don't know, but I really believe that I could have learned from it sooner and healed sooner if I didn't drink. And so finally I gave that relationship to God.
mm.
I said, take this grief away from me. I finally that those were the words that I needed to say. Not
Wow.
like not
Yeah,
like, you know, pointing my finger and saying like, I
yeah,
know you know, you're not gonna I'm gonna still continue to do what I want. Finally, it's God, take this grief away from me. And he did. he did. It was a painful process, which I needed to go through, because in order to heal, there has to be tears. There has to be cleansing tears in
Yeah.
order to heal. And finally, like, of course, I'm not saying that, I still don't have resentment. So of course, sometimes it comes back. You can't control your thoughts. We're only human, right?
Yeah.
But at least now, whenever like a thought enters my mind, I can like identify it, like
Right.
what's causing this resentment? Why is this triggering me? And yeah, the 10th step, of course, practicing the 10th step daily,
Yeah.
really helps a lot.
That self-examination. Yeah. You brought up a lot of good points. When I think about what it was like for me, or what it's like for me whenever I'm in pain, and there are a lot of other feelings that come along with it, bitterness, anger, resentment. I'm afraid of pain, and
Mm,
emotional pain, especially, or being in a place where I'm hurt. And so in that fear, um, I act out in a similar way that you described. What I love about the story of you having the conversation with God is, that's what it looks like to me when I'm talking about the things that I don't want to let go of. Um, I mean, there's the parts of me that are harmful but still serving me because I don't have a better solution. Like I'll hold on to that. But then more importantly, it's the dictation, right? It's like okay, like sure, I'm acquainted with God, but I got it. This is the answer. Like what you said, like
yeah.
the answer is I have to date and then I'm going to feel better. But then but then things have to be a certain way, in order for me to date. So I'm not really seeking for answers or guidance. I'm seeking a higher power that's going to co-sign my bullshit, basically. And for me, like there was no humility in that. There is no humility in that because I'm still trying to get things my way. I'm still trying to be the one to dictate the terms. And
Yeah.
so, time and again, what's happened, and I mean, I guess I'm thankful that I haven't gone out and gotten drunk over it. But I've had to learn the hard way, getting into a state where I have surrender moment after surrender moment. And when you were telling your story, I think about that part in the literature that says, abandon yourself to God as you understand God. It's such powerful language, right? Like
Mm,
abandon yourself. It sounds so complete. And then I think about that image of like what is it? The Rock of Ages, where like you see there's the woman who is basically throwing herself like on the big stone cross, with
yeah.
that's what I picture. I mean, I think that in a way, whenever we're trying to really seek that kind of peace of mind with this spiritual solution, we have to be willing to throw ourselves at it. Um,
Yeah.
because for as long as I'm trying to be the one who's the boss and trying to get my way, um, I'm destined to come into conflict, I think, because I'm the one who's trying to push all the outcomes all the time.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, I had like another thing, like I think some people wanna, they wanna ask that question, like how can you prevent, yourself from relapsing?
Mm, yeah.
Like in early recovery and stuff like that. And of course, there's the textbook stuff, like you have to learn to identify your triggers.
Mm,
What are the people, places, and things that you should be avoiding? Like maybe there's some music that you used to listen to while you were like drinking and doing drugs. Maybe like not listen to
not
that
listening
for
to
a
that.
while. The toogs, 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 maybe not, until you're strong enough. And the usual, like don't go to bars,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's just like, yeah, definitely that really helps, that can start you off basically. But
Mm,
I think on a deeper level, it's really more of like really, living your life, like, like being healthy spiritually, having a close contact with God,
yeah.
and being healthy mentally also. Like if you do have a mental illness, like I do, I had
Mm,
to deal with that as well. Because let's say, okay, I'm praying, I'm doing this, but I have a mental illness that I'm not dealing with, then it's not enough. And it's also like related, like it took like I started to experience like not eating, and I was just crying even though I was attending meetings and I was like doing all of these things that I'm supposed to do. If I'm not dealing with my mental illness,
yeah.
I was gonna relapse for sure, for sure. But yeah, I basically I talked to my sister because God provides us with people. He doesn't like speak to us with a booming voice and be like, go see a psychiatrist. No,
Yeah.
it's like through people. Like you start to realize like what's wrong with me. And then I talked to my sister and I said, do you think I should go back to taking my meds? Because I just stopped taking my meds, like I just
Like
decided.
cold turkey, like
Cold
no
turkey.
weaning. Oh my gosh.
Oh, so imagine I went cray. Like it wasn't like right away, like the next day that I didn't take it. It was
Yeah.
like gradual, and finally I was going insane and I couldn't understand it. Yeah, I was like 101 pounds. It was so bad already. And finally, like my sister's like, I think you should talk to your doctor.
Mm,
And which I did, and yeah, so that helped. I really think that you have to think, like be like have friendships also in recovery that
yeah.
also helps me a lot.
Yeah.
So yeah, like because sometimes maybe your sponsor is busy, right?
Right.
Or if you have a counselor or a psychiatrist, you still have to set an appointment,
Yeah.
right? But you're
Yeah.
already going nuts with something, something's happening in your life and you don't know how to deal with it. The
Yeah.
people that will really help you are the people in recovery, you know? So that's what I feel like has helped me a lot with relapse prevention, you know?
That's a great attitude. I mean, just the fact that like, because open-mindedness, right? I mean, my experience is really just like revolving around AA, and so like open-mindedness is a big part of that. And that I believe includes not just what's within the pages of the text, but also all the different touch points, like you said. I mean, I remember when you're saying these things, I recall times when my sponsor was busy and I wasn't in a great place emotionally. But Barbie, I didn't call anyone. Like there were so many times when that happened.
Oh,
Like I didn't call anyone. I
why?
sat because I didn't want to talk to, I'm trying to recall, I didn't want to talk to anyone else. And then I also thought that, like, okay, so the truth is, I didn't want to talk to anyone else. But then the
Okay.
way I rationalized it in my head is, I'm not supposed to be talking to anyone about this except for my sponsor, or I should talk to my sponsor first.
Mm,
And so, again, like, there's that insane idea. And the insanity really is like anything that I use to justify getting my way.
yeah.
So my way is I don't want to talk to anybody else except for my sponsor. And so I'll rationalize it through all these like different ways. And then meanwhile, you know, I'm crawling out of my skin and eventually I get to talk to sponsor, but I'm not making use of all the different tools, like you said, recovery friends or even outside help, as they call it.
Yes. Yes.
Um, I can be very like rigid with that, like, no, this is the way. And anytime I really don't always catch myself, but the truth is anytime that I get into a kind of thinking where it's like this is the way,
Mm,
I'm not really being open. I'm trying to dictate the terms. And that's kind of the I mean, that I'm a big fan of like talking about things in terms of the higher power and God, and
mm,
sometimes on the podcast I try not to because I'm like conscious of it. But there is a very practical side to um, the program. When it says something like in the AA book, when it says something like lack of power, that was our dilemma. Um, Not just powerless over alcohol, but powerless over just the things that are happening in my life, like all the different things that are not within my control. So if lack of power isn't really my problem, and then there's another prayer that we read in the meeting sometimes, the acceptance prayer, right? Like those
yes.
those two are keys because whenever I'm in a state of insanity that's gonna eventually get me to drink, it's because I can't accept the reality that I'm living in right now and the lack of power and control that I have over that, I'm going to continue to try to fight it on my own. And
Yeah.
that eventually leads me back to, oblivion because I just won't accept it. Might as well go fucking drink or get high again or do something else to just
Yeah.
self-soothe, right? Self-medicate.
Definitely. Yeah. So
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, not accepting what's happening in your life, can really, yeah, it can really drive you crazy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I learned in the program is really like acceptance doesn't mean like telling God that what's happening to you is okay.
Right.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, it's not
It's
agreement.
not like, oh, it's cool. I
Yeah.
accept it. No, it's not. It's really more like, okay, this fucking sucks, okay?
But it's happening.
But
Yeah.
it's
But it's
happening.
happening.
And I'm not gonna drink and escape it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
face it head on, feel it, get angry because they don't say that you can't get angry.
Right.
You can get angry, you just can't get stuck in
Right.
that emotion.
Just
you
entertain it
know
and like, yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
shout if you have to, whatever, right? So yeah, it doesn't mean that acceptance means that you can just basically give up and be
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, whatever. It's not that. It's really like, yeah, just facing it, taking action, basically the things that you can control, doing what you
Mm,
can control, and then whatever it is that you can't control, you
yeah.
give it to God. So that really takes a lot, like, takes away a lot of the stress,
Yes.
knowing that things are not in your control, you
Yeah.
know?
I like that. The more that we're talking about this, the more I'm starting to think about relapse as like, it's not just the moment when you start taking like the drink or the drug again, but for me, um, it's the state of me growing more and more distant from God, from serenity, from acceptance of
Mm,
reality, right? And the longer that I stay there, um, the closer I get to insanity running my life all over again.
yeah.
Because, honestly, anybody that I've ever met that has relapsed in the sense of like drinking again or like messing up their life again, it started with something like that, some kind of like either they're lying again a little bit or
Mm,
that's not like they're doing something that if they really think about it, is not healthy for them. I'm not going to say right or wrong, but they're doing something
yeah.
that's actually a little bit harmful and maybe a little bit shameful, and they
Mm,
just keep on kind of doing it, and that takes them further and further away from a state of peace until they can't take it anymore.
yeah. I know someone was hiding a secret,
Mm,
and it was a very big secret. And I don't blame him for not telling anyone because it is a very personal thing.
mm,
But holding on and to a very, a secret that big, it's really heavy.
yeah,
It's really heavy when you don't get to share it,
yeah,
with people, even with your sponsor. You don't share it with your sponsor,
yeah,
you don't share it in meetings, that, and eventually that's what made him relapse.
yeah.
It took me a long time because I was like, oh, this guy has been, in recovery for a while now. He goes to meetings and he
Mm,
goes like that. And I couldn't figure out, what made him relapse. I thought it was just another reason, but I realized that he was holding on to this secret,
yeah,
and it was too much for him to bear. And when I found out that he had an illness, I realized it. And I was like, oh my
yeah.
God. I was like, if I were holding on to a secret that big, I think I would end up drinking. I would end up drinking because I feel
Right.
like I'm lying to everyone.
Yeah,
Like, imagine you go to a meeting and everyone's there for you, but you hold on to this
yeah.
thing that's so painful. It's, and yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of the things. That's another thing. Yeah.
Secret. I mean, there's that saying, we're only as sick as our
Sick as
secrets,
yours.
right?
Yes,
And
that's right.
it's very true. Sometimes it's not even a secret, but it's still the thing that you're, mm, even holding on to something like that, being immovable, you can start to feel more and more alone, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
because you're just not
Definitely.
open. Hmm.
Yeah, that's why the fifth and the sixth steps are so important,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, being able to tell somebody. It doesn't even have to be your sponsor. It could be anyone. It could be a priest. It could be, I don't know, who else can you tell? Your security guard? I don't
If you trust
They
them,
know.
yeah.
They already know a lot of my secrets when I stumble into my condo.
That's so funny.
Like
Yeah.
they know all my secrets.
That's my fear. Sometimes, the people in the service positions like that, like it's just the things that they've seen, was that saying like if these walls could talk? It's like it's not even the walls. If the
Yeah,
security desk could talk.
exactly. Or like where we hold meetings.
Right.
Can you imagine? Like,
Oh
oh,
my gosh.
here's her ensaymada, sir.
Right, right, right.
And they're all like, yeah, when I was shooting up.
Yeah.
And
In the restaurant where we have the meetings, like the waiter will like sometimes the waiters will open the door like at the right time when somebody's talking about something fucked up.
yeah.
I always look, and so far, wala, poker face. Nobody's like raised an eyebrow or anything.
Whoa, but I'm sure, like, oh, when it's like 10 o'clock na, oh, dadating na yung mga,
Right.
mga addict that set up the chairs on the tables. For sure, they know what's up. They
Yeah,
know
they
what's
have to
up.
know. They have to know what's up. They have to know what's up.
Yeah.
They get exposed to like such color. But it's
Oh my God.
the place where we're at, like our group. I'll say that I'm comparing it to this other place that also meets this other group that meets also in an open meeting.
Mm.
And in that other, I guess it depends on the venue. That other group naman, when I've attended their meetings, um, if there's a waiter or waitress that comes to the table during the meeting and somebody's sharing, I really feel like they're awkward, like how awkward they are, So I give a lot of kudos to
Yeah.
like our place because they don't seem ilang to me at all.
Yeah. They're still, yeah, not at all. I think they're trained very well. That's customer service for you.
Or
Poker
they're
face.
or they're one of us, right? Or they're also learning from like our
They're like,
experiences.
that's right. Like, kaya pala.
That would be
Well,
great.
that's what they say, people in the food service industry. Like Anthony
Oh,
Bourdain, right?
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Kitchen
Yeah.
Confidential. Oh my God, the things that happens in kitchens also. I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
chef, so
Mm,
yeah, things that yeah.
I was thinking the bear.
Oh, I love the bear.
It's
I've
such a
been
hot
watching it
mess.
so good. Oh my God, there was like I think the first episode was just them yelling at each other.
Yeah.
This is
Third season? Yeah. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, 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 yeah.
it was amazing. I was
Yeah.
just like, what is going on? I was
Yeah.
like, but it's fantastic. I
It's so
love it.
great. And our sister fellowship, well, not our, like recovery fellowships I think there was a shout out to Al-Anon and ACA, no? In that season.
That's right, because their mother
Right.
is an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis, she's so good.
She's so
So
great.
good. Oh my God.
She's so
Yeah,
great.
that was an amazing episode. Yeah, so there, like definitely stress is
Mm,
one of the things that can cause relapse.
yeah.
So yeah, you have to watch your stress levels. I mean, there's so many things like, and I think that's when you do like your daily inventory,
Mm,
you have to think about those things. Like if something feels off, like a friend asked me recently, she's like, something's wrong. Like I was like, something feels off. Like everything's okay, but you know that feeling when something feels off? And I'm
yeah.
like, yeah, it's called
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yep. Is that what it is?
It could be, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
that's why it's so good to do the 10th because or have that morning meditation
Right.
every day, because you kind of check yourself. And if you do feel that something's off, it's good to think maybe there's something you're not doing. Maybe you're not maintaining, like you're not praying anymore as much,
Yeah.
right? Like maybe you're like waking up and then you get your phone and you start scrolling, or you go straight to Facebook and you read all of these like news, like really horrible things that we normally see,
Yeah. Yeah.
instead of like maybe doing like reading a daily reflection or starting the day with prayer.
Yeah.
Like those are the things, like do self checks. That's really important. Maybe you're not doing it, or maybe you're eating unhealthily, like you feel like
That's
shit.
true. Yeah. Diet,
Yeah,
exercise, all
diet,
these
exercise. Yeah.
it really all adds up when you think about it, because it's about the quality of your life, right? In so many different
Yes.
ways. And what we're talking about, even with recovery, it's another form of like, well, I mean, there's a spiritual solution like that it talks about in AA, but we're also talking about like emotional well-being and mental health. And so
Exactly.
we were talking about that show, and um there's a lot of dysfunction and there's a lot of trauma. And I think that's something else that I want to, when we're talking about things like relapse, emotional relapse, I mean, get help, right? So
Mm.
if if there's a lot of that in your history, and I've had to deal with trauma and dysfunction as well, like one of the best things that I did was, through the foundation that was built through getting sober, I was able to face those things, because they don't just go away when I put down the drink. There's still a lot that needs to be processed, and a lot of like fact facing and fact finding,
Mm-hmm.
right? In that
Mm-hmm.
respect.
Yeah.
So like we got to take care of our mental health. You talked about, your own experiences, right? And in with regards to mental health, and some of the people that I admire most in recovery are the ones who they have that foundation, right, that comes with being clean and sober, and then working on their spiritual side, but also now they're able to look at their own mental health maintenance and see it in practical terms.
Yeah.
Like, no shit, I gotta like take my medication as prescribed and do X, Y, and Z, or else I'm not gonna be in the right headspace, and then my day's all fucked up, and then my life's all fucked up. So it's
Exactly.
really like it can be very systematic, which doesn't sound like the sexiest thing in the world, but there's so much like healing and peace that we
Yeah.
can get.
Definitely. And that's acceptance also.
It is,
Like
no?
for
Yeah.
me, like I still get ashamed. Like imagine if I'm on a date and I present my PWD card. I have to be very comfortable with that person to bust it out, right? I mean, obviously I have no like physical handicap. Yeah.
Nothing is more attractive than a
No,
PWD card.
yeah, there was one time that I went on a date and we both had it. And we were
Wow.
both like psychosocial. So sexy, right? It was so sexy. I was like, woo,
You didn't get married right there?
No, we didn't. It was just one date and that was it. But it was just nice. It was just nice to feel accepted. And also like, dude, there is a stigma when it comes to mental health, issues and being, having a mental illness. But I think this day and age, people are becoming more aware and, and there's
Yeah.
less stigma about it. And yeah, avail of that 20% discount, man.
I was
Hotels, airlines,
It's so
you
funny.
know.
I was making a joke when I said that nothing is more attractive than the PWD card, but then the minute it left my mouth, I was like, but it does come with a discount. That's pretty cool.
It is. Like imagine if your date found out that you were keeping it, he could have gotten a discount. That's
Resentment.
yeah. Like be nice, bust it out. Give the guy like a discount.
Even if it's a bad date, or is that, or are you gonna withhold? You'll be like,
Oh no,
nah,
if it's a bad date, fuck that.
you pay
I'm not
full.
gonna. You pay full. And I'm gonna order something really expensive too. Oh, my God. But yeah, like you said that, yes, of course, it's a spiritual program and definitely, but we also have to take responsibility. We also
Mm.
have to take action. Like you said, like definitely like self-care is there. Unforgiveness also. I mean,
Oh,
that's in
yeah.
yeah, that of course that's in the steps,
Yeah.
right? That's in the steps. But that's a major one. I remember with my mother, that was so hard. That was one of the reasons why I would relapse. Like I
Oh,
would just,
okay.
yeah, whenever we'd fight or I would remember certain things, I always be like, oh, it's because I was treated, a certain way. And it was always an excuse, and
Mm.
once that there was forgiveness and basically also finding out what my role was in that relationship,
Mm.
I was also allowing it, to happen and
Oh,
yeah, that
wow.
that was my part. That was my part. And of course as a child, when these things happen, when
Yeah.
your parents, of course you don't have a role. But as
Right,
you
right.
grow up, you do have a responsibility,
Yes.
so yeah, you should set boundaries. That's your responsibility as a person,
Yes.
and also to make amends, even if that person is at fault, because it takes two sometimes. And I know I haven't been the perfect daughter. God knows I haven't
Mm.
been. So I apologize for the things, like I apologize for being a drunk,
Yeah.
for causing her stress, and all of those things. And as soon as that happened, that really, really, really helped me. Like now, it's not an excuse anymore. Like imagine losing that huge excuse, like the biggest excuse
Yeah.
to drink. Imagine. And I'm just like, oh, I forgive her. I don't hate her. I love her.
Wow.
Wow,
It just
right?
changed. It
It
just
just
through the
changed. It
process, huh?
changed. Yeah, it changed through the process. That was amazing. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I'm not aware. It doesn't mean that,
Yeah.
like, she can't hurt me anymore. I know she can, but I know how to deal with it now.
Yeah.
I know how to avoid it, to keep it from happening without hating her, you know?
That's that's amazing. I mean, and that's really how it should ideally, that's how it happens. We talk about the relationship between, ourselves and like a sponsor, right? When you're so here's the way I'm picturing it. You're talking about this big excuse, like you said. Um, I've had experiences in the past where somebody told me, or I tell someone else, I can point it out. I can say, Barbie, like, um, you're using that as an excuse for how you lived your whole life. And until you're willing to let it go, you're never going to find healing. But
Yeah.
me telling you isn't just going to make it go away. And yet
Yeah.
somehow, time and time again, like you said, when people are willing to go through a process of healing, like the steps, something happens in like the process of it where we get to realize these things and come to terms with them on our own, and that
Yes.
becomes much more powerful than somebody telling you. Because what else are you gonna like the if I had something like what you described, actually, I know I do, um, like with your mom, the last thing in the world I want to do is give it up because what does that mean? It's all my fucking fault. Now I have to,
Yeah.
let go of it, and then my
Mm-hmm.
justification for being this and that and the other, like, no, I'm gonna die on that sword, until I'm shown another way, or until something happens where I come to terms with the fact that it's actually hurting me and it's actually killing me, and that's not what who I want to be anymore.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Sometimes when people verbally abuse us or try to control us,
Hmm.
it's usually because there's something that, we allow that person to do that to us
Hmm.
because we're still continuing to accept certain things from them, like gifts, money, or whatever it
Oh,
is,
okay.
so it's like you give that person space in your life to keep controlling you, so it's
Okay.
your responsibility to be like, when they dangle the carrot, in
Yeah.
front of you, don't take it. Don't take it. No matter what. No
Yeah.
matter what. Because you are giving that person space again to, or the opportunity to control you, to verbally abuse you, to hurt you,
Mm,
you know, don't, yeah, it's your choice. If you take that carrot, then yeah, you opened yourself up to it. That's what
yeah.
I learned. That's what I learned. And I'm like, wow, that's one of the most valuable things that I learned. And I only learned that when I did the fourth step,
Yeah.
because that
And
was my role.
when we're kids, like you said, you mentioned childhood, right? Yeah. I mean, if that's happening to you when you're a child, um, I think it's not reasonable to expect that, like in the realm of childhood traumas, like we're gonna know better because we're
Mm,
kids at that point. But
yes.
as adults, as we get older, I'll say as adults, when we get to a point where um, we need to heal in order to get better, uh, we have to expect responsibility for the way that we're still letting it run our lives, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm not responsible for pains that were inflicted upon me as a child, um, that I didn't ask for.
Mm.
But today, do I let those ghosts control and dictate the way that I act towards others? Like, am I inflicting pain on others as a result of the pain that was inflicted on me? Like, that is a
Mm.
responsibility that I have today.
Yeah. To make sure that you break the cycle,
Yeah.
with our own children.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
so
Yeah.
that's so difficult though. I see certain things, that
Yeah.
I'm doing and I'm like, holy shit. I'm like,
Yes.
oh my God, it's history repeating itself. I'm being
Yeah.
controlling towards my daughter. I could say a lot of, like I cuss a lot. So I don't know, maybe that's verbal abuse. I'm like, fucking stop that shit. That's
Same
you
Z's.
know, it's just that our parents maybe used other words, like
Yeah.
tanga or whatever, but ours it's more like, what the fuck? Stop it.
Right?
Yeah. So, but it's good, those are the things that we have to realize, like it's so hard to be grateful that those things happened to us in the past
Oh
so
wow.
that we
Yeah.
know what not to be to our kids and finally break
Yeah.
that cycle of abuse and whatever it is. I mean, we're not going to be perfect, but at least we could be better, you
Yeah.
know yeah.
That's I love that you pointed that out, the to be grateful for it. I heard that early in sobriety, that you have to be grateful for your entire life, good and bad. I never thought that was possible. I thought that it was bullshit, or somebody didn't have that bad of a life. And um, but again, something happens along the way. Your perspective can change. My perspective changed, and do I wish I had not pain in parts of my life? Sure, but there is a gratitude, for all of it, because of the way that I get to experience life today.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? It wouldn't have
You
happened any other way.
It's very true. I mean, nothing happens in this world by mistake.
I love that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I had this conversation with my closest girlfriends. It was hilarious. It was like, it was dark though. It was dark, but funny at the same funny at the same time. Here we're all single mothers, right? And we don't know how to deal with our teenagers. We're all like, oh, maybe she got upset, maybe I hurt her feelings, maybe,
Mm,
we're all like that.
yeah.
And then we all realize, we're like, shit, man, our mothers didn't give a shit about us. Like, we realized, like, what the fuck? I was like, our mothers didn't care. They didn't give a shit. They didn't care about how we felt, or like, did they ever apologize to us about anything? And here we are. It's like, maybe I should say sorry. Maybe I should, we're like
Yeah.
so different from them. And one of them said, no, maybe our mothers loved us, they loved us, but just, in their own way. And then we were like, wow, we're like, no, 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 they didn't. It was so like, it was just so bad
Yeah.
that it was so funny. Like you
Yeah.
end up laughing about it. And that's what's good about having friends in recovery, because they know what you're going through. They also went through the same thing,
Yeah.
and it's nice. It's nice. It's like Schadenfreude.
Right, right. And that's such a I don't know if the correct word is like platitude, but like loved you, like they loved us in their own way. I mean, I had an invisible eye roll when you said that, because how many fucking times did we hear that
Yeah.
to try to, basically
Yeah.
justify the harm that somebody's causing us, or
Yeah.
if they could be more loving, but they're not. I guess it's true.
But it's generational trauma,
It's
'di ba? That's
generational
what they
trauma.
say. That it they
Yeah.
they they did what they knew, what they learned. They practiced what they learned, and that was the best that they could do. I'm
It is
like,
true.
so hard for me to
I
say.
know,
I'm like,
but it is true, right? The
it is true.
hurt people. They did the
Yeah.
best that they could. Yeah, it is true.
Yeah. And now we're aware that this time we can stop it. We can finally stop it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure I traumatized my daughter still, but at least for sure. For sure. But now we're open to therapy.
Yes.
She's gonna go through therapy. And because yeah, both her parents have addictions, right? And she's gone through a lot. And I, of course, when I was a child, no way, what, my parents are gonna pay for therapy? Are you kidding me? No
Right.
way.
Yeah, because what
Right?
does
That
it
was not
say?
allowed.
Uh, and
Like,
not because and I've heard some people say this, right? Like not necessarily because of anything that has to do with me. It's like, no, we're not going to put you in therapy because what is it going to say about us and the family? Like that
yes,
bullshit.
yes, yeah, that we have some like a Looney Tunes member of the family, right? Yeah. Yeah, our parents never yeah, they never said sorry. It's part of our culture. It's the Filipino culture, you
So
know. Yeah, definitely. So,
we're
yeah,
helping to change that.
we have to be the better people because we're the ones with the program. I also
We're
hate
the
saying
ones.
that.
Do you really? Yeah. But it's
I
like
do,
it's
but it's
true, but it
true.
is
It's
true.
true.
It is true.
Yeah, we're the ones.
Even the breaking of generational trauma, sometimes if I'm not in a good space, it's like, why the fuck is it my job? Like, but
Yeah.
that's a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing if I want better for, like you said, our kids, my kids. I mean,
Yeah.
shit, half an hour before we got on the Zoom call, um, I apologized to my son maybe twice because, and I told him I'm getting better, right? Like I haven't been in the best place, like emotionally.
Mm.
And so it's like, sorry, I'm gonna be like I'm an asshole right now because I'm just like restless, irritable, and discontent, and it has nothing to do with you. And um, just just the fact that I can have that kind of a conversation with him makes the relationship so good.
Yeah.
It's difficult for me to say like better than the relationship I had with my parents, but it kind of is
Yeah. Definitely.
because
Definitely.
we can communicate, right, more
Yeah.
openly and truthfully.
Yes. And they're still young, and there's still hope, like I know that I fucked up,
Yeah.
I made my mistakes, but she's 11 and I'm sure she has, those inner child wounds, but she's going to go through therapy and I'm doing my best, to be a better mother. And at least from 11 years on up, she could have a good life, she
Mm,
could. Yeah, so that's what I'm hoping for. It's not too late. I know it's every parent's nightmare that they will become alcoholics like us,
mm,
right? But
right.
then
Yeah.
I have hope. I have hope. I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm like reminding myself, I don't think so. Yeah, because she's aware, she's aware that both her parents were both seeing counselors, we're both
Mm,
dealing with it. So I think
that's great.
that's why she wants to see a therapist too, because she sees how therapy has helped us.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm looking forward to breaking that generational
Yeah.
curse for sure.
And most importantly, right, like because of the way that you're already looking at it and approaching it, she has you there,
Mm,
you'll be by her side through it and you're supporting her. And so whatever happens, I think that's the big thing, right? In recovery, we get to be there for ourselves and then we get to be present and there for, the people that we love. Um, and everybody else really. And that's kind of that's the point of it, I think.
yeah. But like another question I wanted to ask you. Okay, so this is like completely
Mm-mm.
different topic. How do you how do you feel about people who relapse in the rooms? Like, do you get disappointed? Do you
Mm. It changes. I mean, sometimes, and sometimes when I think when I can look at it more practically, I'm like, well, this is why we're in the rooms, to find some kind of a solution and to heal. And so if they relapse, then there is something that is preventing them from getting there. It might be themselves, or it might be, I was going to say a condition, but then that's probably just themselves. Um, if it's somebody who I have a relationship with or a connection with, syempre, I get disappointed. I do find that I'm getting less disappointed now.
mm,
Um, like if I have a somebody who I've been working with, right, and then um, they relapse because maybe they were hiding things, maybe there was like a secret that they were keeping.
mm,
Um, it might hurt a little bit, and I'll say that that's me being human. But then I also look at that and think like, well, that is why it happened, you know?
yeah,
Um, there's something still that I get out of that, in that, it shows me that could happen to me. And also, this process that we have, this gift of recovery, um, it still hasn't failed
yeah,
because
definitely.
the people who soar, like it's been such a
Mm-hmm.
privilege to watch you in your recovery,
Oh,
and seeing that, right, shows me that it still works and how it can work when we're willing to really lean into it.
yeah, exactly. You really have to have no reservations, about
Yeah,
the program. That's
yeah,
what it is. Like you can't just pick what works for you and
yeah,
not, right? Like, oh,
right,
I don't want to do this step. Maybe I could just move on to, the next one. It
yeah,
doesn't work that way.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, you know what, actually, it's finding other people who are having a similar experience in recovery or who see it in a similar way. That's helped me a lot. It's actually a great question I used to feel increasingly alone, um, because I didn't have a lot of people who um, saw things the same way, and I wasn't really being honest or trying to connect with people anyway. So when you're doing that, and left, right, and center, like people are just relapsing, um, like I started to feel kind of hopeless.
Yeah.
But being able to like find other people, right, who can still bask in that sunlight of the spirit, who we can process things like the way that we're doing now, it gives
Mm.
me a lot of hope. So um, yeah, it goes right back to what they say. Like, I really can't do this on my own. I need to see it. Like, I
Yes.
need the mirrors. Yeah,
Yeah, it's really a we program, definitely. Like I think so important not to do these things alone,
mm,
and not to feel alone, in this journey, because there's always someone there who's willing to help, willing to
mm.
give you a ride to a meeting or whatever it is, everyone is willing to help. We just have to be humble enough to ask,
Oof, yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
good.
yeah, definitely. So Yeah. So anyway, cheers to that.
Cheers to that. This has been great. Thank you so much, Barbie.
I know. Thank you so much, Pirate Mike. And I miss Carbs, but
We miss you, Carbs.
yeah, we miss you, Carbs. You're here with us in spirit. I think that's what you guys said the last time too, when I was
We'll be back for the next time. The gang will
Yes.
be complete.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
This has been an episode of the Cocoa Recovery Podcast. If you would like to get in touch with our hosts or guests, please email us at cocoarecoverypodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.